This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. So tell me you saw it coming. You knew that they were trading for Jalen Ramsey.
Well, there had been rumblings that the Rams were trading Jalen Ramsey. I didn't expect them to be that desperate that they would basically give him away. I mean, Jesus. Holy moly. No offense to Hunter Long, who's a nice kid, but dude,
brother, you gotta give a 5th or 6th rounder for somebody to freaking take Hunter Long off of your hands.
Pretty much, yeah.
Seriously, no, I'm not joking. Seriously, at this point, it's a 3rd round pick. You're paying him 3rd round money. Somebody's going to say, no, you got to give me a pick for me to take that salary. Not only did he get Ramsey for a 3rd round pick, for a measly 3rd round pick, he freaking got rid of Brian Flores' boy at the same time. You turned Devontae Parker into Jalen Ramsey, bro. And you dumped Hunter. Wow.
Okay, but no, the money is – the base salary is low. I mean, where the rookies get their money is a signing bonus. So, but this speaks to you just how badly the Rams wanted to get rid of Ramsey's salary, because you saw the Dolphins turned around and guaranteed him $35.5 million over the next 2 years, which the Rams wanted no part of. And the fact that Ramsey could kind of make it difficult for them.
Right, because he had a no trade clause, right, I think.
And he wanted to play here.
Right.
So that helped. But no, I mean, Jesus Christ, had you told me you could get him, I thought the Dolphins could get away without having to give up a number 1. Again, because of the financial considerations, but
right.
A three on Hunter Long, Jesus.
Oh
man. Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's a guy you're not, and Hunter Long is a guy you're not even going to use. It's a wasted pick at this point, because it doesn't fit what you're doing now. It was obviously more for flow and whatever idea he had in his offense. So to me, this was just absolutely.
No, there was, and again, I know you're very, very quick to always pin bad picks on flow. Whoever it was, and I don't know that it was more of a flow pick than a Greer pick. I had no offense. I have seen no signs of anything that stands out about this guy, whether it be catching the ball or whether it be blocking. I mean, again, no offense. I have nothing against Hunter Long, but I saw nothing in the first 2 years that told me, yeah, this guy's got something in the future. Like Tanner Conner, for example, might never pan out in the NFL, but I saw a couple of things last summer where, like, there's something there. Maybe it gets, fully developed, where Hunter Long never saw anything. So
I hope so for him, that he's able to do something with his career, obviously, because I'm sure that's his dream, and I wouldn't want to stand in anybody's way. But obviously, there was no plans for him here, so you got rid of a key roster spot. And now, I mean, my God, you have X, and I think X will be super motivated next year, because he has to, since he could get released next year.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he wants to stay here or be valuable to somebody else, you're going to have a really motivated X. So and with Fangio's defense, it's a coverage defense.
Correct.
Where it forces you to be perfect all the way down the field, and you're going to have to dink and dunk them, because they're not going to give you anything over the top. And to have those kind of corners, and to have Javon Holland, holy shit, dude. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, the possibilities are very, very intriguing. I mean, there's no excuse. I mean, let me rephrase that. The pieces are in place for this defense to take a really, really big leap. Yes. Obviously, we can't control injuries, and if guys start getting hurt, that's a problem. But with the guys you have in place, I mean, you have studs on the defensive line with Wilkins, Steeler. I don't know if I say stud, but he's a really good player. On the edge with Phillips and Bradley Chubb, you got 3 grade A DBs with Holland, X, and Ramsey. Give me a stud off the ball linebacker, and let's roll.
Yeah, and that's we were talking about this earlier. The linebackers are going to be coverage guys too, because in his defense, you got to have that versatility. So you can't have the Ingrams and the Landon Roberts running around in the open field. Although I give Roberts a slight hope at coming back, because he's such a thumper that if you need like a specialist, a 2-down linebacker, like I wouldn't mind keeping him just for that, but he won't be playing outside of that because you just can't put him in base defenses because he just can't cover, unfortunately. But I give him a slight hope, but I think there's going to be some changes at linebacker with guys that are two-way players. You agree with that, right?
Yeah, no, and they have a lot of their backups are also free agents again, like they were last year, and they brought everybody back, like Duke Riley, Sam Megwavon. They brought back Brendan Scar last year, and there was a fourth one, Roberts as the other one. Also, they brought back. That's not happening this year, and I can't help but think, that Alain Roberts winds up in Minnesota with reunited with Flores, who I'm going to probably is installing his defense. Is going to tell the Vikings, you want that guy on your team. I actually thought Roberts played very well last year, but he is limited.
Yeah, no, again, if I can put him in a 2-down role, if I can keep him on short yardage and goal line and those kind of things, he'll be fantastic for you. But if you keep him on 3rd and long, that becomes a problem. Just like Ingram. I love him, rushing the passer and those kind of things, but I don't want him out in the open field trying to cover somebody because it's just, unfortunately, it's not his strength. It's not his fault.
No, my problem with Ingram is I didn't feel him at all like the last 6 weeks of the season. I know he had like maybe 2 sacks down the stretch, but to me he was very, very, very difficult to notice. The thing with him though, last year it was 3 or 4 million. I mean, that wasn't pricey for a guy who's been around for 12 years, but is it really that much of any? Personally, I'd rather they re-sign Van Ginkel as an edge guy than bring back Ingram. But I think Van Ginkel might go out there and see, is anybody going to sign me and talk to me about maybe giving me a real shot to play some defense, as opposed to being mainly a special teams guy.
Yeah, I know. I'm a Van Ginkel guy. I wish he would get more time. I don't know. Maybe Fangio sees something in him that he can use him differently and help, because he is I think he can actually be a multi-use player. I think he can be in coverage. I think he can help you in the run. I think he can rush the passer. I think he's pretty complete. And one of the things you can't teach, that son of a bitch knows how to be around the ball, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He has a knack for finding the ball, and that's the kind of stuff that I don't think you really can teach. What do you think is the next move? Because this is going to be a defensive oriented offseason, don't you believe?
I would think so, but now they put themselves in a position where a tight end. I mean, now the only guys under contract for next year are Durham Smythe and Tanner Connor. So if nothing else,
I think they're going draft in that one. Unless
you need more than 3.
Unless you get Hunter Henry from Cincinnati, I think
you mean Hayden Hurst. Hunter Henry.
Hayden Hurst. I'm sorry, Hayden Hurst. There aren't a lot in free agency that fit what he likes to do, and so Hurst is one of the few guys. If you don't go Hurst, I think you're going in the draft for your tight end. Actually, I think that 2nd or 3rd round pick might be one of those tight ends.
No, I definitely could see that. It could be one of the topics being used on a tight end. But I also, again, they have 2 under contract. They're not going to camp without at least 4.
Right.
Sometimes it's 5. So they're going to have to sign a guy. It could be that it's not, like you mentioned, the tight end class is not exactly riveting, especially with Evan Ingram off the market. The other big name is Gesicki, who we know is not coming back here.
No.
And after Hayden Hurst, and there's a lot of maybe second-tier guys, and it could be one of those guys who could get signed. I mean, Dalton Schultz is a big name, but I don't know if the Dolphins want to spend that kind of money on a tight end. So, I would expect them to sign 1 or 2 in free agency, tier 2 kind of guys, and very well could address the position for maybe more of a frontline guy with one of their first picks in the draft.
Practice is going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Waddle and Tyreek against Ramsey and X. I mean, you're always going to get a fun matchup with those guys going at each other. That's practice is going to be a madhouse. Okay, I mean the Dolphins
and if ego comes into play and they're like, no, you're not beating me, or yes, I'm beating you. Yeah, that could be it. That could be a lot of fun.
No, this is gonna be a lot of fun. Just practice alone. Forget the games. Obviously, the games are great, but for fans, you're gonna want to just go to practice just to watch those 2 guys go against each other. And by the way, this also helps Tua because he's got to beat 2 elite corners all the time too. and that's going to make him. I mean, it just everything's going to make everybody better. Waddle and Tyreek will make the corners better. The corners will make the receivers better, and then obviously Tua will be better because look at what he's throwing to and against. Holy shit!
Yeah, that's the old really bland, boring cliche. Was it iron sharpens iron? Yeah, you practice against better players, you get better. And last year, I remember throughout training camp, is nobody could cover Hill and Waddle, and it was like, Jesus, how's that going to be? Is it because they're trying to help the offense create some chemistry and all that? And no, because then they practice against Tampa Bay, and still nobody could cover them in the regular season for the most part of the year. Still nobody could cover them. Now you got two guys. Obviously, you have to create a good balance between creating the competition, those good practices, and not overdoing it. Last thing you want is somebody getting hurt on the field.
The last time we talked about this, you made a great case, and it made all the sense in the world on not picking up the fifth-year option for Tua. I was obviously a fan of picking up the fifth-year option because it's the cheaper option. And I personally, for me, I think he is focused on really taking care of himself this time around. And I think he might actually be able to pull it off this year. And if he does, then you're going to have to pay him a boatload of money. So the fifth-year option kind of works if that's how it turns out. But that's another development that happened Friday in the afternoon after we were done. We had to come back and do a special show for that. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on the Dolphin decision of picking up the fifth-year option?
Yeah, let me preface it by saying that because where everybody's allowed to change their mind. Not that I went full board all the way across to the yes, they should have picked it up. But let's say my stance early in the offseason was like, I don't see any reason to. And it moved closer to where you could see the argument both ways. I mean, it's cost control for the next couple of years. Right. The flip side to that is, again, I look at, let's say, if you look at the two extremes.
There's risk now. Yours, there was no risk. Right, I get it.
There was going to be a risk either way, because if you didn't apply the fifth-year option and he balls out and he stays healthy, plays 17 games, would you not be at a point then that that's our guy for the long term?
Right. And then it's financial risk. But what I'm talking about is the other risk is the one that you're cleared of, which is injury risk. By not picking it up, you're freed of that, because if he does have an injury-riddled year, you are now free in fifth year to move on. So that's where the real risk was, the injury risk. Overall, the other risk is financial. And in the end, you're talking about Stephen Ross. I'm sorry, Stephen, but, $20 million to him ain't shit.
No, but if that's the argument, then you talk the difference between $23 million for the fifth-year option, or if he balls out, you put the franchise tag on him, which is like $42 million. That's $20 million also. It's the same kind of risk. So there's one risk one way or the other. This is why, in the end, to me, I wouldn't have done it if he balls out. Then you revisit it next offseason. If he balls out, plays 17 games, you revisit next offseason. It's either franchise tag or long-term deal. And then you buy yourself another year to make the long-term decision, as opposed to exposing the $23 million off a year where you had two concussions. And some people were like, not valid or not, that it was thrown out there that he's going to retire.
I think they're two solid arguments. When you made it to me, you convinced me, like, okay, I can't argue with I can't say, oh, it's a terrible decision, that kind of shit. I can say that about other things, but I like locking up the fifth year, because I think he's that kid that's going to figure this shit out and going to say, okay, I got to play this way in order for me to survive. And hopefully he'll figure that out.
Yeah, and I'm in the camp of, like, no offense to all martial arts people out there, but it ain't the jiu-jitsu that's going to help him. It's making better decisions and knowing when to give up on a play. But the jiu-jitsu will help you. If you don't know how to fall, if you don't know how to slide, well, you got to learn how to slide in baseball. But you're not getting swung around by a 320-pound guy when you're sliding into second base. That's a different story, and that's the thing with the jiu-jitsu.
You're right, but let me explain something to you. As a guy that took judo, Okay. And as a guy, I've fallen in my lifetime a couple of times.
Mhm.
It's helped me break my fall because habitually I already have that in my mind, the way I fall to roll and break the fall. So it will help him. Will it help him in every scenario? No, it's not going to help you in every scenario because you don't have body control in every scenario. But it will help you, just like that's what I was making the example. There are quarterbacks that just don't know how to slide. And hell, sometimes they're goofballs that they put themselves at risk that they're going to blow out their knees or ankles. That's how terrible they are. But you got to go learn so that way you know how to learn how to slide, and that'll help you. Same thing here. Not going to help you in every scenario, but I'm telling you, as a guy that took judo, it will help you at one point or another for falling purposes. It will. It does.
And again, to me, I don't recall any of the instances where the 3 instances where he suffered where there was head contact with the turf. The Milano push, he just lost his balance and then went back. I don't know. That's
actually the Milano one where he went back. He learns how to roll. He might have broken that fall because he got thrown with momentum, and momentum. It in judo, it shows you to use the momentum to then roll. And that's the part that he didn't, that he, instead of falling back, he could have tried to roll over instead, and he did not. And so that's where he didn't break his fall. So it might have helped out a little bit in that one. The Green Bay one, it wasn't going to help him out.
And the Cincinnati one either. He just got
the Cincinnati one wasn't going to help. The Cincinnati one where you got slammed, there's no help there. You're right. You're right.
So I'll give you that. I'll give you that point. To me, it still remains way, way, way more important that he learns the play is dead. It's okay. Move on to the next play. Just chuck it.
I've been on that the entire time about that. I've been on the whole clock thing, 3.81 to 5.1 seconds. All his major injuries are from holding it too long, And the other thing he's working on, I don't know if you saw our interview with Nick, he's working on quick bursts also to make him quicker in shorter areas where he has more burst and he can get separation. So that's another thing that he's working on with him. So it's not so much the jiu-jitsu that he's working on one end, but with Nick Hicks, he's also working on things to make him faster and quicker in short areas. So that's, something else in his repertoire that they're working on too, to kind of help him in that sense, to keep the plays alive and keep him alive a little bit more too. So that's the other thing. All right, what do you got going on in Sports Illustrated so folks can check you out, my friends?
Well, I'm looking at we're literally like 9 minutes away from the start of the legal tampering things. I'm going to have more stuff on the Jalen Ramsey trade. I did a couple of free agency preview type of things, including re-upping names to watch that who have connections with Mike McDaniel and Vic Fangio. Because if you remember last year, Dolphins signed an awful lot of players from San Francisco. And there are several San Francisco players and Denver players, two of which the two most prominent is Mike McGlinchey, the right tackle from San Francisco, who may or may not be a great idea for the Dolphins as a guy to pursue. He made a great comment on his podcast last week or on a radio interview where he's saying he has a pretty good idea where he's signing. And then Draymond Jones is a defensive lineman from Denver who Vic Fangio drafted, likes a lot. But he's a player and he's going to be pricey, and he may be too expensive for the Dolphins.
Okay, there you go. So check it out. alldolphins.com. Make sure you bookmark that and follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL. Alan, as always, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
You got it, partner. I'm sure we'll have a lot to discuss on Thursday.
Yes, we will. I'm sure we will. Thank you, my brother. There you go. EJD Construction. We love talking about Eric. And I know Eric is happy watching Bitcoin climb. He's a crypto guy too. 305-433-4843. Dade and Broward counties only. All right. But they do exceptional work. Custom home construction, major home remodeling. Maybe you want to create a whole new man cave. Multiple TVs, some of them coming out of the roof, out of a wall, custom home construction. They do it all. Maybe you want to build like an auditorium in your house, right? He actually, one of our listeners built one of those movie home theater things where it has like different levels. It's pretty cool, by the way. I can't afford it, but he could. And Eric built it where it's like they've got captain's chairs all over, right? And it's at different levels. So it's like, and then and then a big giant screen. That thing's like, I don't know, 120, 150 inches, 200. It's a giant ass screen. It's a big movie home theater that they built. And he built that whole auditorium for them, man. And he got a room and completely converted into an auditorium. And that thing is badass. He custom home construction. I told you about the observation deck. You know what I mean? He does all kinds of crafty things. So whatever your mind thinks of, EJD Construction can make it come to life. Go to their Instagram page at EJD Construction. You can see a lot of their work there. 305-433-4843. That's 305-433-4843.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.